Babe, are you ready? The car is waiting. Lucas's voice, smooth yet detached, echoed from the hallway. Sophia Alcott stood in front of the gilded mirror in their sprawling penthouse bedroom, adjusting the intricate diamond necklace that Lucas had gifted her on their 3rd anniversary. She smoothed the fabric of her emerald gown, its silk shimmering like liquid under the soft glow of the chandelier. Tonight she was determined to shine, to remind Lucas of the woman he had fallen in love with, and perhaps to reignite the flicker of affection that had been smothered by their increasingly distant marriage. "I'm coming," she called back, forcing a brightness into her tone that she didn't feel. When she descended the grand staircase, Lucas stood at the bottom, scrolling through his phone. His tailored black tuxedo framed his imposing figure perfectly, his jaw set with the precision of a man who owned everything and owed nothing. Yet, when he looked up, there was a fleeting moment, barely a second, when his emerald eyes softened as they met hers. "You look stunning," he said, tucking his phone into his pocket. But before the warmth could settle, his features steeled again. "We're already late." Sophia looped her arm through his as they stepped into the elevator, her heart a delicate storm. "Lucas," she ventured, "thank you for tonight. I know how much the gala means to you." "It's important for networking," he replied curtly, his gaze fixed on the elevator doors. Her fingers tightened slightly on his arm, though she kept her smile in place. "I was thinking, maybe we could take a few days off soon. Just us. You've been so busy and I thought—" "We'll talk later, Sophia," he interrupted, his tone sharp enough to slice through her words. The limousine ride was silent, the only sound the hum of the city outside. Sophia gazed out of the tinted window, her reflection blending with the shimmering lights of Manhattan. For years, she had been the perfect wife, the perfect hostess, the perfect accessory to Lucas's empire. But tonight she vowed to be more, to fight for her place in his life, even as doubts whispered cruel truths in her ear. When they arrived at the gala, the air was alive with the symphony of wealth. Flashing cameras, champagne flutes clinking, and laughter that carried an undertone of calculated politeness greeted them. Lucas led her through the grand marble entrance, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back. "Mr. and Mrs. Devereaux, welcome." A cheerful voice rang out as the event organizer approached them, all smiles and handshakes. Lucas slipped into his role effortlessly, exchanging pleasantries with practiced charm. Sophia, meanwhile, felt the weight of every glance that lingered too long, every whispered conversation that stopped when she passed. The high society she had once marveled at now felt like a stage set, every player masked and every smile a lie. As they made their way to the ballroom, a familiar face approached them. Vanessa Price. Draped in a crimson gown that clung to her like a second skin, she was the picture of poise and danger. Her dark eyes sparkled with a knowing edge as she extended a hand toward Lucas. "Lucas," Vanessa purred, her voice a melody of confidence and seduction. "You never fail to impress." Sophia's stomach churned as she watched Lucas's smile linger a second too long. She felt the cold steel of realization grip her heart. Vanessa turned her gaze to Sophia, the edges of her lips curling into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "And Sophia, you look divine. Lucas is a lucky man." Sophia forced a smile, her fingers tightening around her clutch. "Thank you, Vanessa. It's always a pleasure to see you." But inside, her resolve began to fracture. Tonight wasn't just a battle for Lucas's attention. It was a war for the truth, for her dignity, and for the love she still believed could be salvaged. As the orchestra began to play and the couples drifted toward the dance floor, Sophia turned to Lucas, her voice steady but firm. "Dance with me?" Lucas hesitated, glancing toward Vanessa, who was already enveloped in conversation with a group of executives. "Of course," he said finally, offering his hand. Sophia let him lead her to the dance floor, her steps graceful, her heart pounding. This was her moment, her chance to remind Lucas of what they had built together. But as they moved in perfect synchronization, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was dancing on the edge of a crumbling dream. Babe, you've been quiet all evening. Lucas's voice was low, intimate, yet laced with the same detachment that had begun to permeate every corner of their lives. His hand rested lightly on her back as they swayed to the rhythm of the orchestra. Sophia tilted her head up to meet his gaze. I've just been thinking. Her voice wavered slightly, though she tried to mask it with a small smile. About us. Lucas's lips curved into what might have passed for a smile, but his emerald eyes remained flat, unreadable. We've been through worse, haven't we? He said softly, leaning closer as though the words were a secret meant only for her. Sophia's heart ached at the fleeting gentleness in his tone, the ghost of the man she had fallen in love with all those years ago. She clung to that whisper of hope, desperate to believe that beneath his polished exterior, Lucas still cared. I was thinking, he continued, his voice barely above a murmur. We should take a weekend away. Just the two of us. No work, no distractions. Somewhere quiet. Her breath hitched, the words wrapping around her like a warm blanket. Do you mean that? She asked, searching his face for sincerity. Of course, he replied, but his gaze flicked briefly over her shoulder, where Vanessa Price stood by the bar, laughing with a group of executives. We need this, Sophia. I know I've been distant, but things will get better. I promise. The word promise hung in the air between them, fragile and weightless, as though it might shatter if either of them moved too suddenly. Sophia's fingers tightened on his shoulder. She wanted to believe him. Needed to believe him. Okay, she said quietly. Let's make it happen. But even as the words left her lips, doubt gnawed at the edges of her resolve. As the dance ended, Lucas led her off the floor, his hand barely brushing hers. The warmth she had felt moments ago began to dissipate, replaced by a coldness that seeped into her bones. They navigated the glittering crowd, exchanging pleasantries with socialites and business tycoons. Lucas was charming, effortless in his interactions, while Sophia stood by his side, smiling politely and playing her part. Excuse me for a moment, Lucas said abruptly, his eyes flicking toward Vanessa once more. Before she could respond, he slipped away, leaving her alone among strangers. Sophia's heart sank, her earlier optimism crumbling like ash in her hands. She glanced around the room, feeling the weight of countless eyes on her. Whispers buzzed like static at the edges of her consciousness, and she wondered if the cracks in her marriage were visible to everyone but her. Taking a deep breath, she made her way to the balcony, the cool night air a welcome reprieve from the suffocating opulence inside. The city stretched out before her, a sprawling maze of lights and shadows. She gripped the railing, her knuckles white as she tried to steady her racing thoughts. He always does this, you know. A familiar voice cut through the quiet, smooth, and venomous. Sophia turned sharply to see Vanessa standing a few feet away, her crimson gown glowing like embers in the moonlight. What are you talking about? Sophia asked, her voice tight. Vanessa's smile was sharp, predatory. Lucas, making promises he can't keep. You're not the first woman to fall for it, and you won't be the last. Sophia's chest tightened, but she refused to let Vanessa see her falter. I don't know what you're implying, but I suggest you keep your opinions to yourself. Vanessa's laugh was soft but laced with malice. Oh, Sophia, you're stronger than this. At least I thought you were. But if you're willing to settle for his scraps, that's your choice. Sophia's hands trembled as Vanessa sauntered back inside, her words cutting deeper than she cared to admit. For a moment, Sophia remained frozen, staring at the city below. Then, with a deep breath, she straightened her shoulders and stepped back into the gala. Her resolve hardened. If Lucas was going to make promises, she would hold him to them. No more doubts, no more waiting for him to choose her. It was time to remind him and herself of her worth.